not for me. And if the wind is right, you can sail away and find serenity. Oh, the canvas can do miracles. Just you wait and see.
It is here in this tiny workshop where the magical dreams of model shipbuilder Captain Frank Carroll become a reality. In just 3 years of modeling, he has constructed 8 beautiful vessels that have taken their place in the history of sailing on the open seas. His passion for ships, that one day became an admired hobby, began innocently enough.
My wife and I took our first vacation in many years in 1976 when we went up to Narragansett Bay in Rhode Island and saw the tall ships. We were stayed on the Staten Island ferry, which was then made into a little hotel right on the water, and we watched the ships all grouping, and this is what got me interested in tall ships. It was a nice trip.
Ship modeling is not a hobby where one can just jump in and begin. Prior to starting construction on a vessel, Captain Frank must study and research tremendous amounts of material about his ships. One of the main parts of the planning phase is the time spent analyzing his meticulous charts and prints. Great precision is needed in measuring the various pieces so that they all will be made to exact size and proportion. Carroll says ship modeling is definitely a step-by-step process.
First thing you study your plans. And in your plans, so you have to pick out the parts that you're going to work with first, because you have to go get step A finished before you can start step B. If you start step B and get step C in the way, then when you go back to A, you're lost again, and you have to tear things down. So you have to study your plans.
As with building anything, the foundation needs to be made first. Ship modeling is no different. The parts that make up the foundation of the ship, the keel and the hull, are designed initially. The keel, which runs the length of the vessel, serves as the backbone of a ship. The keel provides stabilization when a ship cuts through the water. The ship's hull attaches to the keel and gives the vessel its overall shape. Captain Frank says although making the hull requires the most time, it is his favorite part of the ship to build. Making a hull utilizes many steps and expert precision. First, Frank draws out a stencil of the hull shape from the vessel's plans on a sheet of paper. After folding the paper in half, he cuts out the stencil so it's exactly symmetrical. He then traces the stencil onto a piece of wood that eventually becomes the ship's hull.
This is the shape of the ship's hull, and that's why both sides are identical, and that's why I could cut my pattern and fold it in half. Now I have my piece of material there, and I can go over to the bandsaw and cut it out. And shall we go over to the bandsaw?
This 10-inch bandsaw will precision cut shapes whether they have a straight line or rounded edge. After cutting out the shape, Frank sands down the edges to a smooth finish. Smooth sanded edges are essential for later attaching to other pieces and applying shellac or paint. To complete construction on the ship's body, Frank must make the planking. Planking is made from long strips of thin wood. Planks are used to build 2 important parts of the ship. First, they can be used to build the deck. The deck rests on pieces forming the hull and the keel. Secondly, planking is used for the underside paneling that eventually rests the ship atop the water. Frank cuts his planks down to size with this skill saw designed by fellow ship modeler Jack Kitzero. With this saw, he can overlook the cuts he is making so to be sure they are of proper length and width. To get planks to the exact thickness desired, Frank uses this rotating sander he designed and built. This sander grinds planks down to the precise millimeter required. For a vessel to move across the ocean, have a way of capturing the wind. Some of the final features Captain Frank must make are the mast and the sails. Masts are made from long dowels of wood. They are set into the deck and raised upward to hold a sail. Masts come in various lengths and widths, depending on the size of sail it supports. Frank will grind down the mast until he achieves the desired thickness. When the masts are made, it's time for Frank to move on to the sails. All sails are sewn by hand, one stitch at a time. Making sails requires hours of labor, and Captain Frank always enjoys a helping hand.
This is the sail, the basic sail. Now I give it to my wife, and she sews in these lines which represent the yards of material that are sewn together in a real sail. After she does that, then she folds it over and she puts her edge on here. It's folded over twice like this, and she puts her edge on, and when she's finished with that, then I pick it up from there and I start putting my rope around the outside of it, and that's part of my job. I do all the handwork.
And handwork isn't something he always has to do in his workshop.
That's the kind of a job I save when I'm watching television.
When his sails are completed, Frank attaches them to the mast with a complicated step called rigging. He rigs every rope the original ship had, and he makes each line maneuverable. Here, a simple needle threader proves to be one of his most valuable tools. All lines and their attaching sails are on a pulley system so that they can be raised or lowered just like on an actual sailing vessel. Rigging requires working with small thread in tight places, so Frank says this is where patience especially pays off.
It just shows you what patience sometimes you have to accomplish getting one little line into one little place. Patience is when you have to do something you don't want to do it. That's what takes patience. But doing something you love, I just like doing it.
Yes, he loves what he creates. When you put the kind of work and care into a project, the kind Captain Frank puts into his ships, you will always come out with a fine finished product. For Frank, that product is the beautiful sailing vessels built in his very own home. Let's take a look at his creations. The Grand Banks Dory is an American-designed fishing boat often used in the waters off Newfoundland, Canada. With its lapstrake planking, its shape was originated by the Vikings. Lapstrake means the sides will overlap as opposed to having smooth sides. The planking on Frank's Morgan whaling boat differs from the Dory because planked. The paneling remains flush. This whaling boat is a double-ender, as it's identical at the bow and the stern. It was first built in the 1600s and originated in the Mediterranean. Frank's Virginia pilot boat is one of the first American-designed vessels and is often found in the Chesapeake area. Frank says it's a perfect first ship for a novice.
Then I got the Virginia pilot boat, which I recommend to anyone going into the beginner's field, that is a very good model to start with. It has all the features that are necessary in building a boat. And when you're finished, you don't have a big complicated boat, but you have something you're real pleased with.
A relative of the Baltimore Clipper, the pilot boat is used for handling cargo and fishing. Often seen in the mouths of rivers, it can also go into deep water and sail at great speeds. Certainly the most recognizable ships in Captain Frank's fleet are the Columbus Three, the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria. The Nina and Pinta are slim-bodied caravels. About 70 feet long, they were smaller, faster, and more maneuverable than the Santa Maria. They are identified by their triangular lateen sails. The Santa Maria was the largest of the three ships. It's a Neo cargo ship, likely about 80 feet long. The Santa Maria was sunk off the West Indies during Columbus's first voyage to the New World. It took Frank more than a year to build these historic ships.
The fact that they were Columbus's ships is immaterial. They were the three most important ships that ever sailed on the ocean. Whether we want to admit this or not, but they changed the whole world.
According to Frank, because of the long distances they sailed and their unique designs, the Columbus Three brought medieval vessels up to the modern era. It took Captain Frank almost 10 months to build Her Majesty's ship, the Beagle. This British-designed ship was used during the expeditions of Charles Darwin in the early 1800s. Extending to over 100 feet in length, the Beagle had a bottlenose shape with its rounded bow. This was an open-water ship that sailed at high speeds with excellent maneuverability. The largest and by far the most intricate ship in Captain Frank's fleet is the Royal Carroll. This was King George II's personal yacht. The Carroll was over 200 feet long and employed a crew of hundreds. Chiefly a pleasure craft with many ornate features, it also has a full complement of cannons and gun ports.
The whole ship was a beautifully designed ship. They had the lanterns that they had on the back were beautiful. The stern castle, that was all done up very, very nice. And the ship itself was in itself is beautiful. A ship is, a ship is compared to a lady, and that's why they call them she's. And this is a she that had a beautiful shape. Beautiful ship, especially under sail, and that's why I'm putting sails on it.
All of the pieces and parts on the Carroll work, and Frank used all of the finest materials for its construction. The guns and lanterns are made of brass, and the statuettes along the side are made from gold leafing. Captain Frank has been working on the Royal Carroll for more than a year, with completion, including all 13 sails, due soon. For those interested in becoming a ship modeler, Captain Frank says join a club.
And you'll find that some of these clubs, that the men in there are just wonderful. Like, they teach you everything they can. I've met some of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet in these clubs. I belong to 2 clubs. I belong to the Tampa Bay Ship Model Society, and I belong to the Spring Hill Ship Model Society.
Along with his modeling friends, Frank has put his ships on display all over the Tampa Bay area and west coast of Florida. Captain Frank Carroll, an architect, carpenter, historian, master modeler, and I'm proud to say, my grandfather. He has skills that novices can only envy. He has dreams few can only imagine. Ship modeling provides those dreams for him, dreams that take him away to where Captain Frank wants to go.